Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. As you know, I don't have all the music and stuff queued up, but we are here today for our Your Healthy Java usual episode, first and third Tuesdays of the month. But I was talking with the team the other day and realized that it's been a year that we have been casting Your Healthy Java through the support of Massachusetts General Hospital, Office of Equity and Community Health. And so today we're going to check in with our planning team, which consists of Dr. Claude Alabre, who is our medical director, and also Cindy Diggs, who is the community engagement manager at Massachusetts General Hospital, also working with Massachusetts MGB. So we're going to bring them in right now and just really chat with you today. We're going to check in. You get to get a fishbowl experience of Dr. Alabre, Cindy, and I. We're just going to check in about our favorite moments, the reason why we even did this, and things like that. So without further ado, let's bring in our guest, known to some as Mother Hip Hop, Mama Diggs in the community, and also our medical director, Dr. Claude Alabre. So good morning to both of you. Happy Your Healthy Java. I guess that's what we'll call it.
But we're a little bit behind.
How are you guys doing today? We'll start with Cindy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm going to make my way back to Boston shortly and jump. Well, I've been working down here, but matter of fact, we had a couple of meetings with you two while I was here. So though on the road, we're still percolating and getting things done for our community. Dr. Alabre, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm excited. It's kind of hard to believe that we've been here for a year doing this, 25, 26 or so episodes. And Dr. Alabre looked up because he is responsible for ensuring that we get all these wonderful speakers. And so, Cindy, maybe let's start with you. You and Dr. Betancourt were aware of the platform, and what sparked the idea of this sort of partnership, with Your Healthy Java?
Well, the behind story is, you probably don't even know this, James, but when I saw the article that was written about you, I think it might have been the Globe, talking about this Dorchester man that's doing this podcast, and I immediately sent it to Dr. B, and I said, we need to work with James. And we just started talking about it, and then we met with you, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history, a whole year. And then Dr. Alabre, tell us how you got involved. I remember, you have this passion for outreach and education, and how did that happen with getting you involved?
Yeah, that was quite a coincidence, actually. So I had been doing some COVID work, and working on education about COVID before the vaccine even came out, helping people understand, how to stay safe, what to do. And then when the vaccine came out, same thing again. There was a lot of trust issues, obviously, sort of reaching out to a lot of people actually at MGH, doing some sessions and whatnot. And then when COVID started to kind of die down a bit, I said, hey, let's use the same model we had there, because we were getting decent success with people sort of changing their minds and understanding, accepting, and all that stuff. So that's, I was thinking, why not use that with other type of health problems like screening, and because we know there is still a disparity, there is still problems. And I reached out to Dr. Betancourt, and he had just talked to you and said, this may be the perfect timing here. So why don't you two connect and try to see what we can do together? Here we are.
we definitely have to shout out Dr. Betancourt, who, you know, as I call him, sort of the visionary behind this, him and Cindy, and just, you know, making this happen for a year. But this is not, and Dr. Labrie, I'll come back to you. This is not the only venture or platform or mechanism that Office of Equity and Community Health utilizes. And so can you speak a little bit to like MGB, Mass General's, the offices, approach to like sharing this information in equity or health equity?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as you kind of name it there, there is still a lot of inequities in healthcare. We all are aware of sort of numbers of how Black and brown communities, BIPOC, are somewhat behind on screening and even health outcome. The differences we are seeing in terms of higher mortality for similar diseases. I think we went over that last time with the breast cancer and how more Black women are dying of breast cancer than white women. And so we know there are a lot of problems. So the Office of Equity and Community Health is very dedicated to reducing that inequity and doing whatever they can. So there's lots of different projects and programs out there, education being one of them, sort of helping people get their questions answered, basically address their concerns at the community level. So we're trying to go out as opposed to waiting for people to come to us, because we know people don't go as much to the healthcare system now. There was a lot of people kind of fell off the wagon in a sense about going to their doctors. And even before that, we do know access was an issue. There was always problems with trust and having the right people to deliver the message and care that some of our members of the BIPOC community need. So programs like this one, Your Healthy Java, as you know, where we are hearing from the communities, hearing what their concerns are, questions, and bringing the top-notch speakers to talk to them, and also doing in-person things like some people might be aware, but we have had a very successful health fair in the community in Roxbury. So that's one of them. There is the VAN project, as you mentioned. This is more MGB wide, where they go out and again do some education and also provide resources, do vaccinations, blood pressure checks, diabetes, and we have a similar program to this in Spanish. So we're also reaching out to the non-English primary English speaker in our communities, and we had what's going on there?
I saw Cindy with her cup. That's all.
Oh yeah, she's gonna stay healthy. She's doing the right thing. So yeah, I mean, there's that, and lots of programmings happening, and more to come. Obviously, resource is needed for us to continue the work, and we're not anywhere close to getting it done. So.
To Cindy, to Dr. Alabri's point, like the model of sharing health information is nothing new. Public health is something that started over, you know, in other countries even before we ever got here. We learned a lot about, you know, health history, public health in our time pandemic. And so you're the cultural manager and cultural engagement manager at MGH and working with MGB. How important is it that platforms like this or modalities or models, you've done a lot of work in Nubian Square, which I've seen a reference on, I think Boston Wild Black, who's a partner with MGH as well. Kania put a post up where you said in a town hall the other night that, you know, Nubian Square is sort of this generation's Wakanda. And so how important is it that we have culturally competent platforms, caregivers, ambassadors around health? Can you speak to that?
Sure. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years. And one of the things that we do at Mass General that I didn't experience in any of the community health centers or hospitals that I worked in before is that we actually have clinicians, caretakers, and doctors that you can talk to directly. And the fact that your audience is privy to this, where they can ask questions and have them answer directly. Because when you go in for a regular routine appointment, you're there about yourself and you're only thinking about the things that are going on with you, but you don't think about the things that could possibly be going on with you. So you're able to ask these questions and have them answered in real time. Having been a person who's coordinated health fairs for years in other settings, the fact that you're coming to a resource table and you're able to talk to not only a clinician, but sometimes and most times it's the directors of those departments that you're talking to. So, I mean, and the fact that it's right there, it's extremely important. And also important that we come outside of our institutions and we come right into the community where you live, because there has been a fallout between people coming in for their appointments, particularly at the height of the pandemic. People were afraid to go into hospitals because that's where they felt that COVID lived.
Yeah.
Although that was probably one of the safest places to be because of all of the things that we had in place. But, having clinicians that look like us is very important. But it's just important to be able to talk to somebody who is educated in a field that we don't know much about, because we don't talk about health. It's not a regular conversation that we have. So being able to have 3 brown faces on the show this morning, relaying this information and bringing it out into the community is extremely well taken from what I've been hearing from folks in the community.
And I would also add, sorry, Jimmy, to what Cindy was saying, there is unfortunately a lot of information out there as well at the same time. It's like there's a lack of it, there's too much of it, but is it always the right information? And so we're also trying to make sure that people are getting, because we have, in 2022, moved towards more of a social media, internet-based kind of resource where people really are thinking they're talking to doctors when they're reading something on Facebook or whatever, but they not always, or it's not the right doctor. So we also want to make sure, as you had mentioned, Jimmy, many times before, there is this whole disinformation, misinformation problems right now. So we're also trying to make sure we get the right people, as Cindy said, not just anyone, really the experts to come in and chat and provide the right information, and hopefully avoid those complications we have seen, people turning away from healthcare or doing the wrong thing altogether. So that's another big part of it.
Dr. Internet.
Say that, Cindy, again.
Dr. Internet.
Dr. Internet is so interesting. And we can just have a casual conversation for a minute, but we know that there's a lot going on with one of the major social media platforms. It was just bought out by somebody. And the woman that was asserting certain somebody's volume. Let me just pause it for a minute. I think we got it. All right, we're good. The doctor that was putting some false information out about COVID and STDs. I can't remember the doctor's name, but their account just got unsuspended from that platform. And so it's another sort of testament to where we have to have valid, factual, data-driven information. And of course, it is definitely better received from the community when you have people from the community that not just look like them, but have similar, sort of life experiences. And so the other thing I wanted to check in about with both of you is sort of what is your favorite episode? And I think I'll start with Cindy. What's your favorite episode?
That's going to be hard.
You're going to have to nail it down, G. Okay, you can give two. You can give two.
So I'm a Gemini, so I'm going to get two. But I will say that the show that we just had with Tamisha was very touching for me and actually inspired me more than my mother could to go and get my appointment for a mammogram. And I did that, set one up for my sister and I to go together. And so my mother has been bothering us and reminding us. And I had her watch the show too. It was her first time tuning in. And so she was really happy that that inspired me to do that immediately after the show.
Shout out to Mama Diggs. The other Mama Diggs.
That's it. Nana Diggs. So, but then I would have to say that one of my favorite shows with one of my favorite docs that we have that I worked with previously was the show that we had on the SUDS program that we have with Dr. Lambert and Jasmine and Wendia. That was very impactful because we have so many people that are talking about the issues in on Mass and Cass.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is negative, not realizing that these people have a disease and that this is something that we can help to address, and we want to be able to save those folks over there by the work that we're doing, and for it to finally be talked about in a positive light publicly was awesome for me.
That was impactful for me too, because I believe it was Dr. Lambert, you know, we grew up in a generation or worked in this space when they said substance use and abuse. And that even words matter, having updated ways of caregiving, even if I'm not a caregiver, moving in this space, you know, we have to be sensitive to that. So that was one of my favorite or most impactful episodes as well. Dr. Alabre, since we gave Cindy 2, we'll give you two. We'll give you two.
I was hoping for more, actually.
What were your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly had quite a few really good episodes. I mean, my sort of goal is really about impact. And I think all of us really want to be able to make a difference and not just, I mean, it's great that people are getting the information and, you know, it's hard to measure, but I'm sure hearing it will have an impact. But we like to see the things we can kind of measure a little bit more. And so any episode we've had where people actually ask, can I get a doctor? When can I do this? This to me is like, even if it's just one single person, as long as we're making a difference and getting someone back into care, getting some worries a little bit, you know, lowered and whatnot. And so these are very impactful. I do like the episodes where people ask questions the most, the interactive ones, and like, I think the one we had on menopause was actually pretty interesting. We had lots and lots of good questions. And interestingly enough, you know, these are the kind of things that we should be doing as a physician in the clinic, but we hardly ever have time for. And this makes, you know, what we're doing here even more meaningful, because we can now sit down for a whole hour and hear what people have on their minds they never get to bring up, or we don't get to talk about that we would like to. And so the importance of public health in forum like this is pretty significant. So that was interesting to me. And someone just in the audience mentioned the dental care, the dental health one. And so that was also one where I feel a lot of people had a lot of questions, and were able to hopefully answer those questions or lead them in the right direction. So I remember someone who said they had just spent $500 in something they and thought maybe they didn't need. So anyways, so anytime we get someone to sort of get some clarity, get some answers to their questions, or get into care is amazing to me.
That is one of the things that I think stands out to me is the interaction. I'm going to read Donald's comment here. I particularly love seeing the interconnection of the community. It's evident in every show. This community exemplifies that intention. That intention can equal impact. Wow, I like that, Donald. It also starts with the conversation, get your Java. And so like Dr. Alabre says, healthcare matters.
Get it where you can.
So we're getting
and when you can.
And when you can. I think for me, my most favorite episode was probably, of course, you know, the most recent one with my sister. It was very personal to me. Cindy, you weren't the only one that attested to the fact that it pushed them to make their appointment for mammograms. And she's been public on the platform about it, Nicole Hart from Boston, put in here that she was making her appointment, and we said that we would follow up with her and check in with her and see if she's good. I think the other episode for me was, I think the dental was an episode for me. I've been very transparent, not always had the best dental care. And it's so much more important now. And so that one really stood out to me. And I guess the major thing was I love gummies. I love all type of gummies. And when I forgot the doctor's name, when he talked about the interaction, and we know that sugar, isn't good for the teeth, but the enzyme that he said that forms and attacks the teeth, I got to be honest. Well, for weight reasons too, but dental was another reason I don't eat gummies as much. I kind of watch the sugar intake because that's something that, we hear it growing up. But I think hearing him explain it and break it down for me was like, oh, shoot. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things that I think for me were the two. That was one episode, right? I said dental, and I guess it was Dr. Lambert's as well, as far as just getting that learning about, how we approach those that are dealing, with substance issues. So the other thing Heidi said, I just had my mammogram this Saturday. Yes. And Sharon said, I like all the in-person shows, which she's been there, and a partner to MGH and advisor. Thaddeus Miles is in the room. So I guess if we were to take a poll right now, the dental, that is so interesting. That I just find that so interesting to me. Cindy, any thoughts from you?
On my favorite show again, or?
Well, no, just in response to that, we can kind of freestyle it right now because we're going to check in with the audience and get some feedback from them, because I guess we can go ahead and formally announce, I put it on Twitter, but MGH has committed to sponsoring this segment and this show for another 6 months. And so, we're here for another 6 months with you continuing to be consistent.
At least.
At least. And so there's the business end, and shout out to Natalie Connor and folks that make that happen in the background and the finance department. Hi, y'all. No, but I just wanted to put this up too.
Yeah, and it would be great to also, it's great that people are telling us what they've liked best, but if they could also add a word or two about why, because we want to improve this. I mean, this is for you all, for our viewers. I'm sure we will be thanking everyone pretty soon in this episode. Thank you for listening. But really, what is it that really makes a good show, like a good episode for you, would be awesome, because we want to build on that and give you more of what works and what you guys want.
Wow. Sharon has her dentist appointment today.
Nice.
Okay. This is one and we have a mom in here. Teresa is saying maybe some more about pediatric care. I think we only did one. We did one focus on pediatrics when we talked about the pediatric
vaccine. Yeah.
We really haven't done a lot on pediatrics, Dr. Labre.
I agree. That is a very good question. We're taking notes. Let's make sure that's down.
It's being recorded, so we're good. We're good.
Exactly.
But we do want to say that MGH, there is an MG.
That's a good Mama Java right there.
Wait a minute, hold on. The real Mama Java is on. She'll be in trouble. My mom is on.
You're right.
But that's one of the things that we'll incorporate too. And Charlotte, who is the interesting thing I want to raise with Charlotte is Cindy talked about, or you talked about the menopause episode, Dr. Alabre, and Charlotte James, who is part of the faith community, often has and curates these conversations. And Dr. Qureshi, did I get it right?
Was the menopause one? Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Charlotte reached out and we connected them on the show, and she actually went to Greater Love and had an in-person, session with them. And so there are things, as you said, anecdotal is good, but there are some things that we can quantify.
Yeah.
We've seen often people asking the experts, you have any openings? Are you taking patients right now?
No.
And so absolutely. Charlotte is also saying, can we do an episode about sleep apnea?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is a major problem we're dealing with in healthcare. So yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another one. Was there a high specifically on high blood pressure?
We didn't do a full episode on it. We
Nope.
did touch on it with the Heart Health Month. And so we can have a more dedicated session on hypertension and high blood pressure. That's obviously a very important part of health and very significant for our BIPOC communities as well. So absolutely.
Absolutely. And Stan is also saying, and we hold on, that you should have had the Dimple episode before I Oh, it was Thaddeus.
It was.
So Thaddeus, thank you for being transparent. You were the one that purchased the 500.
We never said it was bad either. It's not a bad idea.
It's not bad, but
necessary. But it does work. It is FDA approved. So.
Charlotte, I want to continue with her statement. She says, I have to go back and listen to it. Also, if anyone is a cancer survivor and would like to participate in Faces of Faith, and Charlotte, thank you for reminding me, I can repost the flyer. So Charlotte, please do that and make sure we have the information. Thaddeus is saying.
And also, Jimmy, just quickly, that's a good plug for, we do have a website where the old episodes are posted. I hope people know they can go back and watch. I know people have done that. And so if you don't mind, Jimmy, just put up the site there too for.
It's been a minute. Hold on. Cindy, fill in. Y'all talk for a minute while I try to figure this out. You're healthy Java.
No,
now, I will be very transparent with you all. Those that follow me, know me, and love me know that, you know, my time management isn't the best. And so we'll have to update that page on the website. Cindy's shaking her head, talking about but this is the web link that you can go to, and I'll put it in the comments so you can see, so you can click on it later. But you can go within the next week, you'll be able to go and find all of the episodes. I will commit to doing that. But there are episodes, I believe, up through the first 6 months that are definitely there. We have a couple of writing submissions that are there as well. And so let's go back to the comments. I just want to put that in the comments so folks can click it. And you can go to that website there. And let's go to Thaddeus's point. Where he's saying, I would love to see a show on aging parents. As you know, it's been difficult on my mental health and family. Absolutely. And Thaddeus, thank you for your transparency. We did a little bit. Well, we got an understanding from Kareen when we had the Dudley Cafe episode, and Kareen specified for us the difference between say it, Dr. Alabri or Cindy, palliative.
That's palliative, right, care. That is not just for old right. And whatnot. Yeah, we can certainly have her back, and I'm sure there are other people also who can help with sort of aging. That's a whole field in medicine now, gerontology. So
yeah, and that is one of the things that we can talk about as well. And Thaddeus did hear name. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with these comments. About the mental health piece. And so maybe let's park there for a second. Stan is looking maybe an episode on renal and kidney failure and CKD, aka chronic disease prevention. And that's something we need. I love how he said chronic kidney disease prevention. Of course, there's treatment, but our focus is definitely prevention. And then when we need to direct people to treatment. But Stan also said something up here that I want to highlight. Just give me a second. He is saying, because Thaddeus mentioned mental health, big ups to MG8 Cindy at MG8 Psychiatry. Do you know Dr. Richard Ginsburg?
I know of that person. I don't know them personally.
I just wanted to raise that point that Stan and Thaddeus raised around mental health. Cindy, were you going to say something?
No, I was just saying hi to Stan.
Oh, right, I saw you.
I think what I'm hearing here, Jamie, is we need to focus a little bit more on the two ends of the spectrum, the pediatric and the geriatric.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
And everything in between. Deborah Stubbs is saying, was there a show on arthritis?
No.
So we got at least
yeah, we have a few topics.
Absolutely. And we'll just, you know, I'm transparent. Cindy and I, along with Dr. Alabre, Dr. Alabre, I'm just going to mute you for 1 second, just so you don't get the feedback. We're going to get together and actually map out like the next 6 months of how things are going to flow with topics. So this is definitely impactful. And we have Charlotte who is saying maybe an episode on self-care for caregivers. I did a workshop with Mike Kincaid, shout out to Mike, and caregivers of those who have dementia and Alzheimer's. So we're getting back to sort of the thing of maybe support. I'm so sorry. We're supporting the health of our community by supporting others that are working with our geriatric population. So we got a few topics here. Let me go see what Teresa said. And there are different types of dementia. So I'm hearing something else. Dementia, renal failure, CKD, more focus on pediatrics, more focus on arthritis. And that's like arthritis, rheumatology, and there's like that one department. What is it called? Or say it, Dr. Labrie. I'll take you off of mute. Hold on. Go ahead.
That's all right. Yeah, so arthritis, there are two major types. There is the sort of aging wear and tear type called osteoarthritis, and then there's rheumatoid, which is the inflammatory part of things. And so they're very different. And I'm assuming I was going directly to the more aging wear and type that people usually experience, as opposed to the disease. The inflammatory disease, which is different than that. So, I mean, we can certainly make the distinction when we have the episode, but I would assume the focus will be more of the very common one that almost everyone experiences at some point as they get older, which is the sort of the wearing of the cartilage, the osteo part.
But in talking about that, and this just came to my head, we could talk a little bit about, oh God, what is the disease lupus? Because isn't there some impact of like arthritis or issues with the joints
So if you have lupus, you can get arthritis. This is part of the inflammatory, so where you have inflammation and breaking down of tissues and whatnot. So it's not that everyone with lupus gets it. It's not that every type of arthritis is from lupus, but there is a connection. Again, it falls under the just like people with psoriasis, like the skin problem, can also get arthritis. So these things are a little bit different, not as common. I mean, if there's an interest for it, we can always do both.
And I believe it is. And there's actually a question here. We're going to put you on the spot a little bit, Dr. Labrie. Heidi said, I guess at some point, someone mentioned to them that everyone has arthritis, which is basically inflammation in the joint area. Inflammation or swelling.
What Heidi is referring to is the part that is not the inflammatory type. It's the wear and tear part. Okay. That is true that most people, everyone, have some degree of that. It depends on how severe it is and how much, because as long as you're getting older, if you haven't been sedentary,
don't say that, Dr. Labrie.
Not so great, because being sedentary can worsen your arthritis, but it's a little bit complicated. But yeah, everyone will have some degree of thinning of the cartilage. So when you start to lose height, and so things start to rub a little bit in the joints and the knees and the hips and the back, which is a good point, Heidi, because a lot of times I'll have people go for MRIs or CAT scans or x-rays for completely different reason, and they see on their studies that there is arthritis, and people kind of freak a little bit and say, hey, what's going on here? I didn't know I had arthritis. Yeah, everyone past the age of 30 will have some level of arthritis noticed on their imaging. So it's about how it's affecting you, how it's impacting you, as opposed to whether it's there or not.
So I'm going to be very transparent with both of you. And Thaddeus and I talked about this yesterday. And Cindy jumped in. So I had my first physical since turning 50. I was a year behind. And I found out that before turning 50, they changed the age of, and Dr. Labrie clarified for me, the prostate exam or the colon screening should be at 45 now.
That's colon cancer screening, yes.
So I'm 51. And so she looks at me and says, technically you're 6 years behind. And I'm like, ooh. The other thing is, and my mom may know this.
That's a recent change, so don't feel too bad.
Okay. I mean, she did say technically, but I don't know the exact family history because my mom and them were raised by someone else. But I'm going to be very transparent over these next 6 months around my journey with some weight loss, not for any reason outside. Well, a little bit of reason outside of health, but the other thing is, and Ma, do not get upset, but I remember I was borderline anemic. I remember hearing that sort of growing up in my 20s. Doctor asked me the other day, has anyone ever told you that you're anemic? And so they ordered a CBC, which is a complete blood count. And I'm probably going to go get the blood drawn tomorrow. But I also am dealing with that as well. That now they have the range when you do the test, and I was lower than ideal. So the last thing I'll say about mine, and Cindy, we're going to turn it over to you just to give some feedback. When you mentioned about the arthritis, so I used to be 6'2". Guess what I am now? 6'1.5".
Yeah.
So is it true?
Were you ever 6'2", Jamie?
I was really 6'2".
I know. I just give my patients a hard time. It's like we all embellish a little bit. Sometimes it's more of the get real than no, but
no, it's
that's a 50 thing.
It's so
because I shrunk too.
So that's
we all lose a little bit of height, and part of the reason I was mentioning, beyond 30, we all start to have some level of arthritis, is that I don't have anything to demonstrate, but people can kind of picture. So your vertebrae, the backbones are stacked up, right? Yep. From the base of your skull all the way down to your tailbone. But in between each of those bones, we have a softer tissue called the cartilage. That's sort of the cushion, so that the bones don't rub against each other, which would be super painful. But as you can imagine, we're upright, walking, playing, bouncing, impact. And so there's a little bit of crushing happening there. And some people will have a genetic predisposition, meaning that the way you built make you more likely to lose that height faster than others. But everyone will lose a little bit as you go. And so yes, overall you will lose height, because imagine all these cushions between the bones getting a little bit shorter. It adds up, which is expected. Don't feel bad.
You said that you sort of, did you use the word shrink?
Yep.
Yeah, you do shrink a little bit.
Yeah, a half inch. Well, I was holding on to my 5'3.5", and now I'm only 5'3". Don't be quiet with your 6'1".
You're so loud to say it.
When she said 6'1.5", I said, "Are you serious?" And that's when she said, "How old are you again?" And I guess this we can add to the list, Cindy. Bone density, and it's usually something more discussed with women around osteoporosis, but maybe that's something that we can do an episode on as well, Dr. Wabre.
Yeah, that's a different one that can also add to that height loss, because your bones also, if you have osteoporosis, meaning that it's thinner, you're losing stock, so there's also a little bit of compression happening of the bone, so you're losing height of the bone, you're losing height in the whatnot. And so yes, and in some cases it can be pretty significant that the bone would crush enough, shrink enough that it starts to now cause pain, where it's hurting, pushing onto your nerves that are in between those spaces. And so it's a very important issue, and we should certainly talk about osteoporosis on the show. Absolutely. We are getting lots of topics here.
We are getting lots of topics. And maybe we can talk, Heidi is talking about, I live on vitamin D and vitamin B12. And so what I'm hearing there is maybe we can also do an episode on maybe nutritional and vitamin supplements. I don't know if I'm framing that right, but there are.
Yeah, there's certainly. I was thinking if that would be worth an entire episode. And the vitamin D part, we can certainly talk about that in the osteoporosis segment, because that's important there. If we want to do a full supplement, there might be other things we can slide those into. It's certainly important, but I can tell you there is not a lot of evidence for any of them.
All right. So that's good to know, because similar to Thaddeus and the water pick, we don't want to have folks going out buying all these exotic looking items.
Right.
It's really not an
Yeah, I
impact.
think it is a good. Speaking of misinformation, I think we can also talk about, what's the evidence for a lot of these things out there. Let's put it down. Let's put it down.
Absolutely. So you all are kind of also part of our next planning meeting that we're doing like right now. Dr. Alabre, do me a favor, Cindy, with her wonderful technical self, she mentioned if you have the app open in another screen, that may be why we're getting the feedback. So I can take
So you are correct, Cindy. I have it open on my phone, on my desktop and my phone.
Okay. And if I have to take you off to close it on the phone, that's fine. We can do that. But we want to make sure that everybody gets all this information. Props just called me, so he's probably calling to tell me that there's feedback. I want to go back, if it's cool with you all, to the comments. And Rena is saying, what about arthritis that warrants a knee replacement? And that's one.
That's part of what, yeah.
The other is Teresa is putting her husband out there. And I guess this is about the colon cancer screening. He still thinks it's a finger exam. And let's just clarify that there is that's the prostate.
That's prostate.
Is the colon a blood test?
No, so there are two different ways to screen for colon cancer. The traditional way, I guess the more conventional way, is through a colonoscopy, where a camera is inserted and you visually directly see if there are any growths, what we call polyps, that can then be taken out at the time of the procedure. It is not anything you will ever remember, Jimmy, believe it or not. It is done under light sedation, and so most people don't remember the test. The worst part from everyone is the prep. Yes, you do have to drink the stuff and clean out the colon.
So the other thing, I have to get a colonoscopy.
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. So that's sort of been the traditional long-running sort of way of screening. Now, we do have a genetic test that does not involve colonoscopy, where you collect a stool sample at home. You get shipped a container to your house. You send a little bit of a stool at some point when you move your bowels, and that gets analyzed to see if you are shedding cells from those polyps. And so it's not for everyone. You have to be average risk. So if you have a history of prior polyps, you can get it. If you have family history of colon cancer, you can get it. It's not paid for in that case because you're considered higher risk. And so, but anyways, for anyone who's average risk, you can do that stool test. And if it's negative, you're good for 3 years. If it comes back positive, then you actually have to have a colonoscopy anyways, because they can't remove, obviously, the growths from that home test. There are a couple of other ways to screen. We consider those sort of alternatives. If someone has a reason why they really cannot have either of these two, there are other ways we can do it, either through a CAT scan or through looking for blood in the stool. That sometimes we do through a rectal exam, so that might be why there could be sometimes a connection with the finger exam for that, but it's not the sort of primary way of screening for colon cancer.
Okay. The other thing that Thaddeus put in here, where I can't believe it's already 9:47.
Yeah.
You should. So Thaddeus and I have been talking. We were comparing notes yesterday. He said you should have more on weight control. Maybe a Java with Jimmy competition on self-care. And by the way, your hair made you 6'2" back in the day. I'm going to check and check more on the comments just to make sure we got. Oh, this is one that I think everything we just covered that would be helpful, Cindy, as you're taking notes. Nutrition would be a wonderful topic, addressing food disparities, local grocers that support healthy eating with stock and product. And so, Cindy, that might be something that we can maybe do some community engagement. I know MGH has partnered As I said before, they support other ventures. The Bodega Project, I believe, with Evelyn Brito, where they basically went out in food deserts and worked and supported, they say bodegas, which is the Spanish word for like hood corner store. Yeah, that helping them get more healthy options. Cindy, are you familiar with that project?
I only know that it exists. Can you put that back up?
Yes. Cindy, we can go back and we can go back
you
and
can.
Oh, okay.
We do have, I'm not sure this will answer to this particular question from Donald, but we do have an episode on nutrition,
Yes.
maybe even two, from what I remember, because we did a weight loss / healthy weight nutrition and then a nutrition separate, but we can certainly expand on those.
Was that Fatima?
Yeah, Fatima.
Yeah, Fatima.
Dr. Fatima. Yep, we did her about a year.
We had also with the nutritionist that I just a beer who had. Yeah, and that episode is on the website. I know that.
Okay.
Yeah, the show with Fatima. I think that was at Thanksgiving time.
That was at Thanksgiving.
That was last year's Thanksgiving time. You're right.
And so I might need to put that up next week just to remind people. Get ready that there are alternative ways. Oh, look at this one. And our good friend Marie Doubleday is in the room. And she talked about when we talk about food deserts, there is an urban farm in Mattapan. Absolutely. This one, all three of us. We have not talked about eye care.
We have not.
Wow. Y'all are on
There's a lot out there we could cover. Yeah. It's good to hear the interest. It's good. I mean, people might have noticed, but we have been in the past year focusing a little bit on what the topic of the month is based on some national groups and whatnot, because we thought, it's relevant, and sometimes having some relevance to what we're talking about sticks better with people, and people like to hear, it'd be hard to have breast cancer month and not talk about breast cancer, but maybe we could have the first episode of the month be about the topic of the month, and then the second one be about all these other things that people are interested in, so that way we balance it out and get we're taking notes.
We meet the needs. Cindy, just off what you're seeing there, how many topics do we have so far? There's one other question I need to pose to the audience. And I'm really going to ask you all to really give some feedback. And Charlotte said she loved that idea. So maybe topic of the month in the beginning, or, depending on the speakers, because I want to be honest with you all too and raise this for Dr. Alabre. There is intentionality on this platform, as Cindy and Dr. Alabre said, to try to have people from the community that look like us. We understand also that there are certain medical specialties that we as BIPOC BIPOC caregivers haven't fully been a large population of the faculty. Is that Dr. Alabre? Did you just lose your bone density?
I was trying to get to your height.
Hair density.
I know you've lost a little bit there. I didn't want to be the tallest one here.
You being a little shady this morning, Dr. Alabre. Okay. But that is something that I think we should look at as well. I want to go back to a little bit of comments, and I'm going to pose a question. But Dr. Alabre, we have to just applaud the fact that you work diligently to try to ensure that there are BIPOC caregivers that are on screen with us. So it does sort of take away from some of the stigma. We've named this, we're not going to stay here. Medicine hasn't always been favorable toward Black and brown people, and we know that. And so that's why there's that intentionality. And here's another subject, ADHD.
Well, okay, that makes it 12.
Well, look, that's the 6 months right there. But the other thing is that who brought this up in reference to ADHD? I want to go back to Teresa's comment where I had mentioned the anemia, and she said, James, I'm anemic, Jimmy. It really does deplete your energy. It can make you feel very lethargic and brain fog. I still blame my brain fog on being pregnant. But I'll be honest and transparent. There are times where I'm just like, ugh. And you try to do it with diet, you try to do it with, some supplements. And so it's going to be interesting. And I'll let you all know, what they say, but it's going to be interesting to find out if or not, I'm technically anemic. My first thought was I got to eat more liver. That's what my grandmother and mother used to say. If you eat liver, you had to eat
You're
liver.
dating yourself there, Jimmy.
I'm dating my mama and my grandmother. But we used to have liver once.
No, but there's some truth to it. I mean,
okay.
It's a very iron rich food.
Hold on. Charles said.
Gross. I know. Yeah, I mean, the idea behind it is that people who are anemic are, for the most part, low on iron. That's not the only reason for anemia. You can be anemic for many different reasons. But one of the common reasons is that you have lost too much iron, either because of heavy periods or bleeding in other sources or lack of intake of iron. So there's different reasons. But in liver, being very rich in iron, because that's where a lot of our iron is stored in animals. So people, we're not eating human liver, but we all animals and they all similar. So,
did you just spit a bar there?
Did you just spit a
bar?
What's that?
Did you just spit a bar and rap there? Okay, Dr. Labre, you have some hidden talents.
I've got some hidden talents. You'll give us 6 more months and you'll see. But yes, there are lots of different sources of iron, so we don't need to get the liver. I think you're grossing a lot of people out, Jimmy. Spinach is another one. Green leafy foods, spinach being a very rich iron source, but there's also iron in tablets. So if that's your problem, obviously we want to make sure, if you are anemic, you should be screened, evaluated to find out why. And if iron is the issue, then that's what you would supplement. And also, if you have lost too much iron, we need to know why is that. So that may lead to other, especially in men, because we tend to not obviously have the regular loss of blood like people with.
Like those that experience menstrual cycles.
Exactly, yeah.
That's one of the things, and it's so interesting because when I hear you guys talk or the comments, my mind automatically goes to other things. And one thing that I really take pride in that we do on this platform is we highlight the fact of knowing and naming that though members of the transgender community, we have been very intentional around being sensitive to that, but also naming what I would maybe say right now in real time is a genetic reality. We had the show with Dr. Robbie, and we talked about trans men still may need to be screened for breast cancer. And trans women still need to be screened for colon cancer. And so I think that when I sense the sensitivity in how
colon is for both, regardless.
Colon is for both?
Colon is always for anyone, regardless.
Okay,
You're probably referring to cervical cancer screening for.
Yes. Cervical cancer. But no, I was there by mistake with a medical expert. Because there's so much focus, I guess, for men with colon cancer, that inadvertently I just had that, thought.
I see. Yeah. I mean, the screening is whatever organ it is that you have, regardless of the gender. That's what we need to focus on and screen for. And so the risk, as long as the risk is there, it should be screened.
All right. So Cindy, we're at about 15 or so topics that we'll have to work out in collaboration with, those affinity months is what I call them. We're at 9:57. And speaking of time, I want to pose this to the audience. Dr. Betancourt, Dr. Alabre, Cindy, props, my advising publicist, my videographer, all know that I have been struggling with time frame, day. Do we do it in person and record and then cast it? And so I want to ask you all as the audience, right now we're sticking with this interaction on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. But considering we're going into the winter, considering we're, thank God, kind of doing better with COVID, What are your thoughts around when we should do the show? Should it be in person? Is it in the evening? Daytime would be very difficult to get our experts and whatnot. And so I just want to get some feedback from you all. And it doesn't just have to be right here. I will put my email address in the in the banner here and let you all know to email me. And we are actually going to ask you all to take the survey again, just so we can have some more input. But I need to hear you guys' opinion or preference for when we do the show and how we do the show. I got to chat with Dr. Betancourt yesterday, who's the Senior Vice President of Equity and Community Health. Is that his title? And it just, that is the one thing in this space that just is my bane of existence, because we want to have the greatest impact and get as much messaging out to as many people as possible. And it's just interesting. So any feedback that you guys have either here today or we'll Stan. So Stan said in person. Teresa said, I think virtually will get a much larger audience. So we'll always have a virtual, what I call broadcast or casting, but is it live here? Do we record? So these are some of the things.
So I just want to chime in here. I think that those of you that are regular listeners, tell a friend, because you are the folks that can explain the wealth of information that you're going to learn here. And this is not something that happens ever. So I think that if we get you as part of our street promotions team, in helping with the marketing, I will be working with James and his team on creating a marketing campaign. But you're the best source here as the people who've been tuning in for the past year. Hey, you can listen while you're at work. It happens first and third Tuesday of the month. And, they could listen to the other shows. So, there's power in the people in pushing this message. So we want to be able to maintain this, but we need to increase the people that are receiving this messaging at the same time.
Two things I want to close out with is, and I'll be again transparent, as Dr. Alabre said, there are other reasons why you may be anemic. And with my doctor talking with me about colon cancer and screening, she did highlight the fact that, you don't want to be anemic, period, but especially due to some internal bleeding that, and I'm like, well, if you're bleeding internally, you would have other symptoms. And no, but, you just may not. The last thing, Dr. Alabre, I want to pose to you is that there's a little conversation going on. Charlotte had mentioned after 50, you only need to get a PAP every 5 years. And then Charlotte responded in saying, Heidi, I'm speaking to women who have not had one. Oh, since COVID screening. Yes, Charlotte. When I saw Heidi type this, it hit me as well. But I have a problem with that every 5 years. I think it should be a personal decision.
So the recommendation is every 5 years after 30, not after 50. And that is with certain conditions. So if your pap smear is negative, meaning that they did not see any changes in the tissue of the cervix when they looked at it under the microscope and whatnot, and you have no HPV, that's a virus that actually is responsible for most cases of cervical cancer. So if you don't have that and you don't have any changes on the pathology, then you're good for 5 years. And that's actually a national recommendation based on very good science, good data, because the changes that lead to cervical cancer take years to happen. So you are almost very unlikely to have anything happen in that intervening time if you didn't have anything at the time they checked. So there are times we do it every 3 years. If you have HPV or if you're younger than 30, again, your doctor should be really quick to answer that kind of question. If you are concerned and say, hey, am I due? Should I be getting this? Send them a message. I don't know what your system is, but a lot of people will probably be happy to just quickly answer that for you As Jimmy mentioned, there are some individuality to this, so sometimes it is modified based on risk and other things. But the standard is typically 5 years if both tests are negative after 30.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you would have asked me a month from now what was one of my favorite episodes, this is one of them. Just this sort of interaction with you all. And when I say you all, I mean Cindy and Dr. Labrie. We do this, but with the audience as well. This is really what the platform is about, is this sort of exchange and feedback and dual exchange of information. So I really want to say I appreciate everybody that has been tuning in for the past year. We're just getting started. The first 6 months was sort of pilot. The second set of 6 months was less pilot and more working out some kinks. And so on these next 6 months, Java with Jimmy is about to percolate like never before. And so with that being said, I'll leave closing remarks for start with Cindy and Dr. Labrie, and we'll let you guys go. But don't forget to email me about your thoughts around, you know, if we record, when we do it. Oh God, that thing. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I would just say, start your marketing campaign with us, in letting folks know on the 3rd Tuesday. We want to see you and a friend come and listen to the show.
And Dr. Labrie.
Yeah, my last word is really thank you. I have very thoroughly enjoyed being able to be here twice a month, or have a speaker, whatever we've put together, to be here to answer questions. And it's been amazing. I remember the first episode when Cindy started to refer to the audience as the Java fam.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was a whole family. And then the more I stuck around, the more I realized this is really a true family. And so I have appreciated you all. I really want to thank you all. MGH is very happy to be here to be able to provide this resource to the community. And we're only looking forward to making it better and better and better with your input, with your participation. And I'll reiterate what Cindy has been saying, get more people, get the word out, please.
Get the word out.
Yeah.
Dr. Labrie, you just messed me up. I felt my eyes swell up a little bit when you talked about the Java fam. And we really are. We really are. And so it was so interesting. Uh-oh. All right. Migraine headaches. Okay. Faces of Faith. All right. I think we got everybody. And Teresa sums it up here for all of us. Thank all of you for everything that you all do as far as listeners. And here comes the mama. Who, when remember the health fair, or we were somewhere, and my mother walked in and was like, "Hi, Dr. Labrie," like she's known you for years. So it is the Java fam. And so
really
I come in 2 weeks from today, and we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition, maybe some diabetes, Thanksgiving, but things are just and I seen it earlier, dermatology to Sister Teresa, Mother Teresa. And Mother said, thank you to MGH. All right. No moist eyes today. Yes, Sharon, I will. Today. All right. Y'all stop commenting so we can get off of here. Dr. Labrie has to see patients.
We need to go work on getting this budget bigger so we can be here more often. This is
right. Thank you, everybody. Listening.
I almost messed up the wonderful computer that MGH is responsible for. Oh God, here goes. Yo, I love y'all. Men cry too. Absolutely. Get off of here, y'all. I just go. I'm going to go pay a couple of bills, and I'll talk to you all later. Cindy, I'll see you on the 14th, and Dr. Labrie, I'll definitely be in touch as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
That was one of the best Your Healthy Java episodes that we've had in the year. So thank you all for your input. Just a couple of programming notes. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Reverend Willie Broderick will be with us. Not as pastor of 12th Baptist, but he will also, he's the executive director of TAC, which is I don't remember the name of the acronym, but it's an organization within Roxbury. They're having a huge career hiring event just around very uncommon industries that Black and brown people are employed. And so that's taking place on November 10th. And so Pastor Bodrick is coming in his role as executive director to talk about that. And also at 9:30, we are going to have a guest. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to have a guest that comes in and talks with us about one of the ballot questions. And it is going to be on, hold on for 1 second. Let me just get the email here. That is going to be on question. Give me 1 second. We are going to be talking about, come on, long thread. On question 1. So we're going to have someone talk with us on question 1 tomorrow at 9:30. Pastor Willie Bodrick at 9. An overview of question 1 at 9:30. And that's it for me today. I'm on my way back to our city. Keep our city in prayer. Keep our parents in prayer. Keep our law enforcement officials in prayer. Keep our city officials in prayer. There's a lot going on, not only in our city when it comes to violence, but also nationally. You all will see on your timeline, another rap artist fell to the demise of violence today. And so we just want to keep that in mind. And yes, Lasagna, we are having dinner very, very soon. I'm going to get back. Plan to have my life fully together. Tay was on vacation last week. She went and got married. And so she's back. And so, yeah. Things are coming together. That's it for me today. I need to make my way back to Boston. Thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you tomorrow with Pastor Willie Bodrick at 9 a.m. Thank you and have a great day, everybody. Peace.